Kalimantan has a million charm and stunning natural scenery in a dynamic world of competition. Science and technology play significant roles through education based on teaching and learning. With focusing research on natural resources, specifically the humid tropical rainforest and community services, more than 100,000 students study in the city. At the University of Mula Warman,
tepatnya berasal dari Universitas Mula Warman, Heriani Pratama.
Indonesia. Established in 1962, the University of Mula Warman has now succeeded in occupying the ranks of the best universities in Indonesia and the best university in East Kalimantan. Relies on the natural resources, specifically the humid forest and its environment. Higher education is one of the important pillars in the national development. Higher education is the pioneer in encouraging the development of a nation. We are committed to being an agent of change by producing highly competitive of human resources. Currently, the University of Mula Warman has many achievements, both institutional and students as well. The University of Mula Warman is the first university in Kalimantan with the accreditation of Institution A. This achievement cannot be separated from the commitment and cooperation of all elements. Human resources at the University of Mula Warman are highly qualified, with more than 100,000 lecturers who were graduated from the leading universities in the home country and overseas. The Faculty of Economy and Business has 9 study programs and 1 accountant specialization. The Faculty of Politics and Social Science has 8 study programs. The Faculty of Agriculture has 5 study programs. The Faculty of Forestry has 3 study programs. The Faculty of Law has 2 study programs. The Faculty of Education and Teacher Training has 24 study programs and 2 teacher specialist programs. The Faculty of Fishery and Marine Science has 6 study programs. The Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Science has 7 study programs. The Faculty of Engineering has 15 study programs and 1 engineer specialist. The Faculty of Medicine has 6 study programs, doctor and surgeon specialists with A accreditation. The Faculty of Public Health has 1 program. The Faculty of Pharmacy has 4 study programs and 1 pharmacist. The Faculty of Cultural Science has 3 study programs. In implementing the research focus, the University of Mula Warman has 8 research centers. In applying the student scientific field with the research, students are expected to be able to find solutions which occur internationally and globally issues. University of Mula Warman is a part of 2035 educational institution in innovation in South and Southeast Asia by clarified student. To take advantage of East Kalimantan's biodiversity, the University of Mula Warman established the Center of Excellence in Medicine and Cosmetics, Science and Technology of the Humid Tropical Forest and its environment to strengthen academic excellence, commercialization, and utilization for research results. The collaborative relation of the University of Mula Warman have been established with other institutions, both government and private at home country and overseas. The cooperation consists of in academic research, institutional studies, as well as community service. Now, the number of Mula Warman University partners have reached 172 active collaborations. A tangible cooperation that has been conducted, namely the 4-in-1 project between UNMUL and ISDB, Islamic Development Bank. As part of society, the University of Pulau Warman realizes the function is not limited to teaching, but includes social and cultural aspects, many social activities, and community development to provide tangible benefits to society. To reach the world-class university, UNMUL puts research, teaching, employability, and collaboration as the prominent priorities to produce nation successors with reliable soft skills, problem solving, team working, critical thinking, creativity, communications, literacy, and digital literacy. Now, our education is in the era of technology utilization without reducing the value of the educational goals itself. The COVID-19 pandemic has given good lessons for us. The point is to adapt to challenges and change. UNMUL, learn from COVID toward Cloud University.
Dear all the participants, before we start this workshop, we would like to invite you tomorrow to the 5th International Conference of Tropical Studies and its application. We still open our form to register for participants. For more information about the registration, you can kindly open the link in the chat box. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the general lectures of the 5th International Conference of Tropical Studies and its application today, Tuesday, 5th October 2021. It is an honor for us to introduce and welcome the speakers for the general lecture today. His Excellency Professor Ira from Qibao Agricultural University, China. His Excellency Dr. Endra Gunawan, MSc from Bandung Institute of Technology, Indonesia.
Recording in progress.
The Honorable, the Executive Director of PIU ISDB, University of Pulau Dr. Estin Musta'id, MSc. And also, we welcome all the participants of this general lecture. Please give a round of applause. We would like to invite all the participants to sing the national anthem of Republik Indonesia, Indonesia Raya, and Mars Unmul.
asas Pancasila. Universitas Mula Warman, harmoni kehidupan. Universitas Mula Warman, tonggak sejati nusa bangsa Indonesia. Universitas Mula Warman, denyutna di masa datang. Ilmu di dada, agama di jiwa, berbakti untuk negara. Universitas Mula Warman Jaya. Jaya.
Thank you. Before we begin the lecture, let us pray together, which will be guided by Fahrizal Atim, STMSC.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Marilah kita mengawali general lecture kita pada hari ini dengan membaca doa untuk yang beragama Islam. Doa saya akan pimpin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Ya Allah, Tuhan kami, izinkanlah kami pada kesempatan hari ini untuk memulai aktivitas kami yang pada hari ini akan melakukan aktivitas keilmuan, yaitu general lecture. Ya Allah, Tuhan kami, perkenankanlah kami melakukan aktivitas ini dengan sebaik-baiknya. Berikanlah kami kekuatan dan kesehatan sehingga kami dapat melaksanakan kegiatan ini dengan sebaik-baiknya. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina azabannar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to listen to the welcoming speech from the Executive Director of Project Implementation Unit, ISDB, University of Mula Warman. The Honorable all the audiences, please welcome Dr. S.C. Musta'id Yusuf, MSE.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah wa syukrillah. Wassallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin Rasulillah. The Honorable Bapak Dr. Endra Gunawan, ST MSc from Institute Technology of Bandung, and the Honorable Bapak Profesor Ida Bagus Andika from Qingdao Agricultural University in China. Ladies and gentlemen, all participants of these general lectures. Alhamdulillah, today is a happy day. We are still given health and strength to be able to participate in gaining knowledge, especially in terms of scientific writing, which of course will be very useful for all of us. On this occasion, allow me to tell you a little about the 4-in-1 Islamic Development Bank project, especially at University of Mula Warman. The Islamic Development Bank project at University of Mula Warman, the project title is The Development of University of Mula Warman as Center of Excellence for Tropical Studies. This project, under the umbrella of 4-in-1 project, the title is The Development of 4 Higher Education Institution Project. This 4-in-1 project not only builds buildings and infrastructure or hard program, but also builds and improve the human resource capacity of the University of Mula Warman by the soft program components. The soft component program itself consists of curriculum development and also providing a research fund through the research and teaching grants, and also sending staff to continue their doctoral studies through overseas degrees training, and also capacity building for the human resource through the overseas non-degree training, and also in-house training that we conduct inside the University of Mula Warman. And also we provide a collaboration research with another university through the research consortia. Today's activity is a part of the research consortia that we call ICTROPS, the International Conference of Tropical Studies and its Application. And the first day, the organizing committee conduct a general lecture to provide knowledge for all staff or participants how to write a paper in terms of scientific writing. Hopefully all of us, especially myself and all of us, we can gain knowledge about how to write scientific publication from the very proper keynote speaker which already have high ranks H index. On behalf of the project implementation unit of University of Mula Warman project, I welcome to all of you, especially for keynote speakers, Bapak Endra Gunawan and Professor Ida Bagus Andika. Hopefully all the activity today will become smooth and provide full benefit for all of us. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you for the warm welcoming speech. The next agenda is photo session. We are now going to have a photo session with all the participants and the speakers. Our team will do the screenshot, so make sure that your camera is on and your face is visible.
Please turn on camera to all participants. We will capture 1, 2, 3. Next page. Okay, next page. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for giving your best smile this morning. I hope it will be a good start for our agenda today. And please stay until the end of this general lecture because we will choose 4 best participants who will get a special prize from us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now continuing our agenda today with our first speaker, Dr. Endra Gunawan, ST MSc from Bandung Institute of Technology, Indonesia. In this first session, we will get lectures about scientific writing, building writing habit. This session will be moderated by Dr. Eng Aji Eri Burhandeni, STMAIT. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our first speaker and moderator.
All right, thank you for the introduction. The honorable speakers, the distinguished guests, and all the participants of the 5th ICTROPS General Lectures. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in this today's event. First, we will have 45 minutes presentation and 50 minutes Q&A session. You will have opportunity to submit your question to the presenter by typing your question into the chat pane of your Zoom or YouTube control panel. You may send in the question at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session. Second, the presentation slide link will be provided on the chat pane. The attendance form will be also provided at the chat pane at the end of the presentation. And last, the best participant to win the 5th ICTROPS General Lecture giveaway will be announced by the Master of Ceremony at the end of today's event. And now, without further ado, we will turn our time to our speakers, Dr. Endra Gunawan, ST MSc, Our presenters today is one of Indonesian productive researchers whose expertise on the earth science, geophysics, tectonic geodesy, geodynamics, hazard and risk analysis, crustal deformation related with the earthquake, volcano, and tsunami. Okay. And he's currently work as an assistant professor at the Global Geophysics Research Group at the Faculty of Mining and Petroleum Engineering, Bandung Institute of Technology, Indonesia. He graduated from Geodetic Engineering, Faculty of Civil Engineering and Planning, Bandung Institute Technology of Indonesia in October 2002 and obtained both master and doctoral degree at Department of Earth and Environmental Science, Graduate School of Environmental Science at Nagoya University, Japan, major in the Earth and Planetary Dynamics in March 2010 and September 2014 consecutively. And his latest works published on the Q1 Scimego journals are Critical Point on Housing Construction, Family Subjective Welfare After Disaster, Notes from Lombok, Indonesia, Earthquake Sequence of July to August 2018. And second, an assessment of earthquake scaling relationship for crustal earthquake in Indonesia, seismological research later. And lastly, the superhere earthquake rupture and geological fault multi-segment separated by large band result from integrating field measurements, LiDAR, SWOT bathymetry, and seismic reflection data. And please welcome Dr. Endra Gunawan.
Thank you, moderator, for the introduction. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, we can hear clearly.
Hello?
Yes, Dr.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Okay. Please allow me to share the screen. Okay. Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can see the presentation slides.
All right, thank you. So for the next 45 minutes or probably less, then we will have discussion. The topic given to me is strategy writing, building writing habit. And for this talk, I will not cover the technical details on writing the journal itself. So I believe the technical detail will be covered and presented by the next speaker. So here I will share to you the self-preparation on writing a manuscript, which should be ready for the journal submission. And my name is Endra Gunawan. I'm from ITB, and this is my website. So you can check on this website anytime. I obviously updating my website every time I have some news on books or published paper. So feel free to check on. So this year I published a book in Indonesian, fortunately, and the title is 8 Practical Steps in Writing Scientific Paper as the First Author. And you can find this book online through Google Play, Google Books, or if you are interested in the hardcover books, you can check on the any marketplace online, such as Tokopedia or another online store. And I also currently become an editor not the managing editor, but the editor in geophysics for this journal. So if you have some topics in geophysics, for example, you can send to here, or any other physics, any other material in physics, you can submit to this journal. Right. Okay. So my career started as a lecturer. Is obviously it's not very long ago. It's only about 7 years, starting 7 years. So my first paper published as a co-author was in 2012. So this was during my PhD, and my supervisor become the first author and published one of material on the tectonics in related with the 2004 Andaman earthquake. And in 2014, my first paper as the first author was published. So that topic with this title here is part of my dissertation. And then end of 2014 until this year, and hopefully the next few years ahead, I'm still in ITB in Bandung. And during this time, during the last 7 years, I have managed publish first author and or corresponding author for 11 in Q1 and 3 Q2 and 1 in Q3. So what I'm going to share to you today on making writing as a habit is, I believe it is a good chance for me to share to you my 7 years experience how to make this writing as a habit. So if you think that my presentation is useful, so you can follow throughout the session. But if you think that is too light, hopefully in this occasion we can have discussion and also collaboration in research or in anything. Right. And so I would like to start with you that writing, actually, especially international journal, is not a single formula. For example, if you happen to visit ITB, for example, in Bandung, in central Bandung, in Jalan Ganesha, we also have university campus in Cirebon. So if you come to Bandung in Jalan Ganesha Street, and then you wish to go to the Cirebon campus, there are many ways. One of the first option is throughout the highway. You go through Padalarang, Purwakarta, and then going to the east. All of this highway. But if you think that sometimes we experience traffic jam from this west highway from Padalarang up to Purwakarta. Normally, car from Jakarta who visit Bandung, if in case of Saturday and Sunday, we have experienced traffic jam during those time because of many cars passing through Bandung. And sometimes you think that probably going through the north directly to this city, Lembang, and then Subang, and then going to the east is much more convenient. So that's another way to go to Cirebon campus. And another way to go to Cirebon campus is just go through the normal highway. It's not really a toll, but it's just a province way. And using this road, for example, you will pass through Sumedang, and in Sumedang, they have a nice tofu, fried tofu. They smell good. So if you want to visit Sumedang and try to taste the fried tofu, then you can go throughout this way. So obviously, from one place to another place, you can go with different route. Depends on what your preference. And it's similar to writing. So what I'm going to share to you is based on my 7 years experience, and another person, another expertise, they may have different experience and different different suggestion on how to make some habit in writing. And so I'm going to share to you the one of the important thing in making a habit for writing, that is a self-preparation issue. And the first thing is motivation. You need to know what is your motivation in writing a scientific journal, because scientific journal is not like writing a novel, making money from novel. If you publish a scientific journal, publish in scientific journal, you may need some money, which I may explain later throughout the of my presentation. But then again, what is your motivation in writing? If you are a student, for example, doctoral student, then you have to, based on the decree from the ministry, that you have to publish a paper if you are a student. So you need to maintain your motivation during your study as a doctoral student. For example, 3 years, 4 years, and hopefully it doesn't go more than 4 years. But those motivation you need to maintain and build so that you can publish in scientific journal. And if you are a master student, and in some university, they just need some submission, a proof that you submit your result in international journal, for example. But if you are like myself, for example, if you are a lecturer, or right now BRIN, or Research National Agency, Indonesian Research National Agency, yeah, I'm not sure the English word, but in Indonesia we call it BRIN. You have to publish because of your status, because of your job, asking you to publish. As a lecturer, for example, there are 3 categories that become your duty: education, research, and community service. So obviously, becoming a lecturer is not just educating a student, but also doing some research and publish in an international journal. So then again, you need to know what is your motivation. And the way, for example, I will share my experience. As you noticed in my earlier slide, that I was publishing, my first published as a first author is during my PhD. And during the last 7 years, the idea of the thing that makes me interested in publishing is that if in my study, in my field of study, we cannot expect someone else or researcher from abroad come to Indonesia and doing some tectonic investigation or geoscience investigation in Indonesia. It was happened in 2004, for example, and the later in my field of study is earthquake. So the latest Palu Donggala earthquake in 2018 also attracts some interest from researchers around the world. But if I'm looking back at the 2004 Aceh earthquake, Sumatra Andaman earthquake, for example, I realized that the early years, the topic itself makes some funding come to Indonesia, and scientists doing research about the earthquake and all those geoscience aspect. But then if during the recent years, we cannot find any scientists from abroad and doing some geoscience research in Indonesia. So as an Indonesian scientist, I believe that it is one of my duty to share, to understand more on how the geoscience aspect that I can evaluate, that I can investigate, and to be useful for Indonesian. For example, where is the tectonic active in Sumatra and another topic. So basically, that is my motivation in how to keep writing. And obviously the motivation I had and the motivation everyone in here will be different. So you need you need to find out what is your motivation, because again, if you are a student, doctor student, and you just have a motivation in finishing your study, then your publication will only be one, for example, because after your graduation, then you don't have probably you don't have the right motivation to writing again. But at least in the beginning, you need to find what is your motivation in writing a scientific journal. And the second thing is finding a collaborator. And this is one of the important things in our building our self-confidence. In trying to submitting a journal to a high qualified journal, some reviewers, some editor, they need a comprehensive aspect of your study. So sometimes you just understand, let's say, on evaluating A, for example, and then to make it comprehensive, sometimes you need to add a B, C, or D. So in that case, you may find that finding a collaborator is like a shortcut to get your to get your manuscript comprehensive and ready to submit. And that is one of the reason of finding a collaborator. And another thing is collaborator makes it's important to if you are a researcher or lecturer, having collaborator will be very important for your career, obviously, because if you have collaborator, then you may find that the next paper from abroad, for example, or from another university in Indonesia, if you have, it's like writing a sequence of result. So the first result you got, for example, in this year, you may publish in journal A, but then throughout the continuous research, you may find a different result in different aspect from one of single subject, and it could be published in journal B, for example, in later the next year. So having collaborator in a different field, in a different institution would be very useful for increasing your curriculum vitae, for example, in having many journal. So this is another thing of having collaborator. And the third thing is that if you have collaborator and you simply finding collaborator is not easy. That is the first information before you have finding from collaborator. And obviously it's easier to find collaborator if you have some knowledge on how the personality and how the way they works, how the pace with your result, for example. And this can become from your senior, or this can become from your colleagues. And if you don't have such of a connection, and you just find someone throughout the internet from Scopus or Scholar, Google Scholar, then it is quite tricky, because some people, some scientists, they have in another part of the world, they may have different culture. So it's obviously it's becoming more difficult if you want to find collaborator without any experience or any discussion with the person that you wish to collaborate with. But if you already have some good communication and good work with the person, the scientist, as your collaborator, he or she may support your research also. So because of this collaborator, because of this network or team, a global team that you build, and you may apply for research fund, and there might be some fund for your next research or for your submission process in journal. So this is the important thing of having collaborator. So instead of single analysis or analyzing some material or some research by yourself, you may find your collaborator strengthening your result. And that is the second thing. And the third thing is for you not to feel lonely. So as a student, I feel that he or she, the student, maybe feel that himself or herself can finish the work just by himself. And I don't think this is quite true, because if you have some discussion with your supervisor, and that means you don't, and if you have a good connection and good discussion with your supervisor, this may help you not to feel single-minded on finishing your research. So you should feel that someone or some researcher outside your current network, outside your current situation, could support you, because I think that having someone who can back up your work, and some scientists who can support your research from different institutions, from different countries, for example, it could make your work easier to publish because of those discussions. So again, it comes to that number two, that having some collaborator, it makes you that those environment that you build for applying the research proposal or journal proposal, journal submission process is could be easier. Okay, so that's the. And the next thing is to read many references. This is what I think, as an Indonesian, this is one of the lackness that I found also in my student. So trying to read many references before you start the work, before you start to analyzing, and before you start asking questions on the research. Because research basically is asking question, and yourself trying to solve and answer the question that you pose. So before you start doing all of that, you should read many references, and because the reading many references, then you will find some unique question which may lead you to some question, and then you can apply this question and answer as a research, obviously. But also, if you have read many references, journal references, eventually the latest publication, you can put also those references or your questions in introduction and also in discussion. And probably also in methodology, because you can use the methodology. In my field, I can use methodology from the same methodology with another publication, but the introduction should be different, because in introduction I post that what is this study, and what is the lack of thing that they analyze, and this is becoming the research question. And in the discussion, I again answer those the finding that I obtained from the research. So reading many references is important. So you have to spend more time in reading in the beginning of your process. If you are a student, you should read many references even before you start the analysis, the research that you wish to analyze. Okay, and the next is honesty. So becoming or publishing a scientific journal is about honesty. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to be honest with the result that you obtain. And at some point, there will be many scientists around the world to check on your study, to check on the process that you publish in your journal when it is published. So honesty during the process, and then honesty in delivering the result to your journal is very important. And there is the concept in writing a scientific journal. And for example, when in your first result, you feel that you need throughout the process, for example, and throughout the time during more digging investigation, and you find that your previous result is missing something or is not correct in some way, you may make correction in your next publication. Because that is what science is. You publish using based on honesty and your understanding, using the proper method and discussion. And in the discussion, you may have some reviewer, but eventually, if it is published, then you may see that the editor, for example, agree with your reason. But if throughout the years, if you think that your previous result is somehow missing something, you may find that argument and correcting the first argument or the first published journal in the next journal. And it can be done like that also. But the thing is that you have to be honest with yourself, with your result during your publication. Okay, and the next thing is funding. Funding is very important. Nowadays, we find that many open access journals, which probably later the next speaker will discuss more on publishing in a reputable journal. But one of the key issue in funding is that you will use this for your publication. Like I said, writing in scientific journal is different with writing for novel or some kind of book. But in writing scientific journal, if you wish to publish in open access journal, then you may have to spare some funding for applying this journal. And open access journal is very the APC, or so-called article processing charge, is varied probably from 1,000 US up to 3,000 or more US dollar. But so there is at least the funding that you have to spare if you wish to publish in open access journal. And if in Indonesia, as an Indonesian, most of our funding probably comes from the Ministry of Education. So, and the fund that they provide to us as a lecturer, for example, or researcher, is not really much. Probably, say 100 million or more or less like that. But if you check again the journal publication of, let's say, 2,000 US dollar, 2,000 US dollar is equivalent to probably $35 million. And including tax, you may have to spare probably 35 or until $40 million. So then it's almost more than almost 50% of the research fund that you have or you obtain from the ministry. So then you need to make it balance between some funding for your research and some funding for your funding. And again, if you have some collaborator, if you look at number 2, finding the collaborator on how you're going to manage your big research, you may ask some support or funding from your collaborator. Again, if you feel that the collaborator is with yourself is having agree on something and having a good relationship, then you may ask, because funding obviously 2,000 you may spare. If you have 4 team in your publication, you may spare to 500 each, 500 US each. So funding is obviously needed for publication. Recently, I found that the journal, the free submission journal, is reducing. Nowadays, I found that the number of open access journal is increasing. So yeah, it became a problem, especially for us Indonesian who don't really have funding but wish to submit in open access journal. So my suggestion is to you to find a collaborator or a big team who can support and discuss on this, especially funding. And the next thing on funding is to get or to apply to correct your manuscript in English proof. Obviously, we are Indonesian. Our mother language is not English, and we probably study English from junior high school. So, and we just use English in some international conference or when we go abroad. So we never use English regularly, and even though, so the last manuscript that myself and team submit, one of the co-author of this paper is our collaborator from Cambridge, UK University, Cambridge University in UK, and the funny question about one of the reviewer posed to us is that they mentioned the publication, the draft is not written is not written good in English. So it makes us quite strange, because our co-author is from UK, he's fluently speak English, and we have also published in one of the Nature journal together. So it's a funny question posed by reviewer on our manuscript. But if that is happened to us, having some co-author from abroad, it may happen to your paper, your draft, when the team doesn't have or didn't have co-author from abroad. So some reviewer, they just post, okay, this is the English is not really good. Just looking at the co-author or the team of the paper is not from the English language country, and so in that case you need to spare some funding again for the English proof, but I will share later on English proofreading. So there is some funding is crucial for the before you start the before submitting the journal, and as a how can I say, as a self confidence for you to submit, okay, with this journal or another journal. Okay, and the next thing that I want to share is for you not to surrender on a rejection. And I found this it's very obvious. Many of my Indonesian colleagues, once they submit and then the reviewer posting some disagreement on ABCD, and then the editor final decision by the editor is rejection, then many of my Indonesian colleagues, they just feel that, okay, let's just stop, and did not modify and edit and follow the input posted by the reviewer. So having your draft or your manuscript follow the, if you have rejection on the first, second, or third journal, then don't be surrender, because you can use the input from the reviewer. If you have a good reviewer, if you find that a good reviewer reviewing your draft, then he or she, the reviewer, may post some input. Actually, it's some input. Although the final decision is rejection, but it is some input, something that you can follow, and then you can add to your draft. And then when you modify the draft following the reviewer comments, and then you can try and post and try and submit to another journal. So having a strong belief in your research and not surrendering on rejection, even though it's first, second, or third, or probably the fifth, don't be surrender, and having a confidence in your work. The key issue is actually to find that if you think that your manuscript is comprehensive enough, is to find the journal. So probably the next speaker will speak on the finding the journal also. So this is some self-preparation, my advice for you to before in writing and preparing something for the publication. And I would like to, when you have the draft, for example, when you have the draft ready to submit, and there are something that you need to on your draft. The first is consistency on the language. If you check on the journal that you wish to submit, they may use the English style different. For example, now we have UK English, UK style and American style. So you need to check with what is the preference of the journal that you want to submit. Also, consistency happens with how you write. The simple thing is the references. So some reviewer, including myself, for example, if I'm reviewing some work and then I notice that the author or the draft is not consistent on how to write the reference, one, for example, using different style with another, and it may mix the reviewer feel that you don't check your draft regularly. So having your manuscript ready and ready to be reviewed by a different person is important. So consistency in using English and using the language in your draft is really important. And the next thing is avoid plagiarism. This is important because if you make some some students did this. They just take the figure from some published work and they use they use it on the paper. So you need to modify the figure and then you need to add modified from something. So having the easy way basically is just for you to make your own figure, even though it's not really good, but still you make the figure by yourself. So it's one way to avoid plagiarism. Another way is sometime in writing. So the easiest way to avoid plagiarism in writing is that you just read. Previously, I mentioned on reading some reference. So you just read if you want to use the word from those published work of those published study. You just read 2 or 3 times and then you just type based on your understanding in your mind. not to look at the published or written language. So it's one way to avoid plagiarism in how you write from the previous study. And the next thing on your draft, especially in that discussion, is to show something unique from your finding. And it's not just a confirmation. Eventually, if you want to publish in a high quality journal, Q1, for example, then this journal, sometimes most of them, they will ask for something unique. What is some unique finding from you? What is the thing that is not available, not published before? So you need to see something from your result and not just a confirmation. Because if it is just confirmation, it may be published, it can be published, but probably the grade of the journal is not Q1, maybe Q3 or Q2 or Q4. But most of the Q1 journal, they request something unique, something that the reviewer see this as something that is not available before. So this may be posted or this may be written in the discussion part. And the next thing is to cite the latest publication. So the idea of having, before I mentioned about reading many references, so this is the application. So you need to cite the recent publication to show that to show to the readers, and the first step is probably reviewer, that you understand the topic, you understand the global concept, the whole pool of the study that you propose or you read in your draft. So having those studies and then come back to number 3, for example, you show something unique. That means you have a comprehensive view on how you're going to convince the reviewer, convince the editor on the importance of the book. And right. And the next thing is to check on the structure of the journal target. Some journal, they have different structure. For example, journal Nature, for example, they have different structure because they don't put method in the beginning. They put method in the end of the manuscript. But how you're going to make or write, you can check on the a journal that you wish to submit. And there may be, for example, here I put the example of chapter 4. There is some journal they request for result and discussion, but the different journal, they may have result in chapter 4 and chapter 5 in discussion and then conclusion. So, but then again, how is the structure, you can check on the journal that you wish to submit. And right, and then the next thing is to double check again before submission. So this will obviously this correspond to also consistency, but having your draft being checked by every co-author, and when they agree on the draft, then it makes, at least it can convince you that the draft itself is ready to submit. Because as I mentioned, some reviewer, if they may see something wrong with the, for example, in English, we want to type N, but in Indonesia we put done, for example. It's just similar. The A and D is the same. It's just different location between Indonesian language and English language. So sometimes we make a typo, and then, but when the reviewer find out, oh, this is an Indonesian language and probably different another language you post and you write in Indonesian, then it may makes your draft or your submission process being rejected just because of the simple thing. So again, double checking on the documents before submission, especially the title. You need to post some title. You need to write some title that there is express the whole significant thing on which can make some readers interest in your paper. So making some title that is standard and there is not how can I say it's just a regular work. It's lack of interest for the readers. It may make feel like that. So obviously making a title, because when someone trying to read your work, they will check on the title first. They will not check on the abstract. They will not check on the whole study. But in the first thing, they will check on the title. Then they will check on the abstract. They find it interesting. They may check on the conclusion. Then if they keep interesting, they may read your paper. But the first thing they will check is the title. So making discussing in a team and double check again on the title, on how you're going to make the title is really important. Right. And okay, so probably this is the last thing that I will talk about English proofread. So again, I already told to you, I already shared to you that we are not English reader, English speaker, and English proofread is obviously important. But if you think that your English is good, but please bear in mind that English speaker sometimes it's not the same with English writer. So probably you are good in English speaking, but somehow probably in typing documents you may find some typo or anything. And again, if you previous step, double checking on the English is also important. So English proofread is really important for you to convince the reviewer and obviously editor. And I think that's the last slide for me, and stay strong and good luck for your draft. Thank you very much. I return back to the moderator.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Endra Gunawan. And we are now going to begin answering the question that we collected during the presentation. And as a reminder, you can still submit your question through the chat pane in your Zoom or YouTube control panel. And for the first question is from Carmini, Pulau Warman University. How to make an eye-catching title? And perhaps I will read the three first question first, and then Dr. Endra will address them. And the second one from Kiki Septi from Warman University. Is it better to cite the source directly or to paraphrase it? And from Budi Santoso, also from Warman University. How do we express ideas so that the written work become complete and the ideas are more connected? Perhaps it's related to the cohesion. So how to manage the cohesion of the paper? Okay, perhaps that's the three first question. And Dr. Endra, could you address them?
Okay, thank you, moderator. Okay, the first question is how to make eye-catching title. Yeah, as I mentioned, title is very important because most of 90% readers they will read on your title instead of the context of your paper. And the first step is simply for you to check on the previous study. That's the easy way. The easy way is just you can use, let's say, Google Scholar and check how similar study conduct in your field and different posted or published by different researcher. And then if you think that you have some unique finding or something that makes makes another researcher or readers beneficial from your finding, you can put it that in the title. And just don't use. My suggestion is not use just normal title. For example, just regular and without something that is interesting for readers. If you have some method and it haven't applied by different researcher, for example, even though it's the same thing of research, you may use that method and put it in the title. For example, in my field, in the 2004 Sumatra Andaman earthquake, there are obviously hundreds and thousands of research they investigate and they try to publish in the topic, but most some of them they analyze the same thing. There is probably, let's say, the earthquake itself. Where is the source? And the difference between those research may come from the method itself, may come from the data itself. And so you can use those data that you use and apply it to the title. So there is another way to do that. So I hope that answered the question. The second thing is directly or paraphrase. My suggestion is not to take the word directly. You can read the reference 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, or many times, because reading, but reading only once may find that I think in my experience, you will not find that if you read those study only one time, then you may find that you may not understanding at all. So you need to read more than one, at least more than 2, to really understand what is the statement posted by or published in the paper, in the published paper. And then if you want to use the arguments, then those understanding of the, let's say, 1 or 2 paragraph of those published paper, it may help you in trying to figure out how you're going to argue with those study. Or probably it's not arguing, but it's supporting. But again, you need to read not just 1 or 2, you need to read more, even though it's the same paragraph, because understanding is beneficial for you to, as I mentioned, for you to rewrite, to paraphrase in discussion or in production. There is the second question, and I don't catch the third question.
The third question about related, perhaps it's about the cohesion of the paragraph. So how to express the idea so the written work becomes complete, then ideas are more connected.
Yeah, it's easy. Again, it's easy if you to make it like that. It's easy if you have understanding the whole concept of your study. Say you are a biologist or any other field, then you need to, if you read many reference, as I mentioned, not just 1 or 2 times, many reference, and you find some unique thing on your study, and then you try to pose a question and answer the question, then you have a global concept of the study itself. So understanding the whole concept and then posting a single question and then trying to answer the question throughout the research, it's not comes from just one-time reading or two-time reading. It's come from discussion. It comes from your probably attendance in the seminar and discussion with, if you're a student, discussion with his supervisor. And if you have discussed with supervisor one time and you think you understand, it may be wrong. I think it's wrong because you need to understand more. You just can't come and discuss only one time. You need to have many reading, many think through to understand the whole concept itself. So I hope that answered the question. Okay.
Okay, I hope that answered the question. Okay, and I'm gonna read the next three questions from Anissa Citra Adinda from Lowarman University. How important the number of researchers or members in a field research? And the second one from Chikwa Adifikri. How is the tips and trick, okay, the approach to find a place for publication to submit articles for us for the first time? So for the beginners to write the international journal, how to approach to find the publication, the publisher. And the third one, from Rusfina, Lawarman University, regarding the collaboration. And the speaker also mentioned about the different field to obtain comprehensive final result. Then how to decide the appropriate journal from different field of the researchers. Okay then.
Okay, thank you, moderator. The first question is important, how many research member. Yeah. So if you are a student, obviously your research member or your research co-authoring the work will be your supervisor. If you are a student, that is the first rule in publishing as a student. But if you are not a student, then you don't have actually you can go any direction you want. You don't have an obligation to have a research member in your manuscript or in your draft or in your research goal. But if you think that your research is comprehensive enough solely by yourself, then you may try to publish. And I have this year I published myself as a single co-author and single author, and also my single author in a journal. So but most of my work basically I also add some additional member in my publication. So you don't have a strict rule on how you going to have how many research member will be involved in your work, but it depends on you. But if you think that solely by yourself you cannot find a comprehensive result, comprehensive discussion, then it's time for you to think about the additional member who can support your result the way you want to go. So the key person is yourself. You have to realize and understand how the strength of your research. So I think that's the answering the first question. Second question, and how for beginners, tip and trick to publish journal, to place to publish journal. So obviously it will be delivered or by the next speaker how to publish a reputable journal. But as a introduction, probably I will share that you can check on. Now we have Scopus. If you don't have Scopus or you don't have ID, you can go to Simago. And simagogr.com, you can find some journal. You can check on the list which is where is your expertise and what is the journal. You can check on the Simago. Even you can download the data and you can sort which which is Q1 and which is Q2, and you can apply this. But for beginner, simply if you are a beginner, I assume that you are a student. So if you are a student, then you may discuss with your supervisor, because that is what supervisor should do. He or she should guide you so that you don't cross the border. So that is the supervisor, the purpose of supervisor. It's maintaining your research goal so that you should go on the highway, not crossing the boundary and everything. And finding the journal, it should be one of the suggestion by the supervisor. And it depends on your field of expertise. But the easy way, if you have some problem, for example, with your supervisor in finding the journal for beginners, even though you're a beginner, you may check on, like I said, Simago JA, and you can find where is the journal that is having the characteristic with your study. Another way is to check on the previous publication, let's say Google Scholar. So if you read many references in the beginning of your career, before even you start the research, if you read many references, then you know that these people that you read publish in journal A, another people publish in journal B, another researcher publish in journal C. But if you think that those journal is because you're a beginner, probably their research is more comprehensive than yourself, you can check on the journal and you can go back to Simago and compare, because obviously different journal have different level. So if you can compare the similarity between the published journal and then the lower standard journal that you wish to submit. So that's my suggestion for the finding the target journal for beginner. And the third question is how to decide the journal. I think collaboration, how to decide the journal. Yeah, I think it's quite roughly the same. How to decide what is the collaboration? How to decide the journal, right? So you can check on the look. The thing is that if you have research, if you have some topics, who is the key person in here? So if you are a student, the idea may come from your supervisor. But another option is that the idea is come from yourself, then you make discussion with your supervisor, and then you both agree, or the team agree on doing something research. But the key person on doing research is who in this team is doing research. So if you are the key person in doing this research, so you should I think you should try to like I suggested earlier, trying to find the correct journal and probably finding someone or probably asking your supervisor who can be the collaborator or who can support your research so that your study or your journal can be published in a comprehensive way. And I think that's my answer to the 3 posted questions, moderator. Thank you.
And now I will like to read, since all the question from Mulawarman, and I will read from outside Mulawarman, which is related. From Alam SW from DPKH Jawa Tengah. For a single research, how many papers do you usually write? Kindly share us your experience and insight. And second, from Manik, from Stimi Handayani, could you please elaborate more on show something unique from your finding? And okay, and last from Suhardi is from Warman University. So in your opinion, what is the most positive aspect of this pandemic regarding the publishing of the manuscript? and how to stay productive writing paper in this condition. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Pak Moderator. Okay. The first question is how many citations on a single paper? Don't start. My suggestion is don't start with numbers, because if you read, then you knew that this study is important, then this study is important, and they study another study, for example, different study is not really important, although it's one of the reasons. So if you start with numbers, then the sequence will not be it cannot support your research. So starting from the reading many references, then you can justify that those studies should be included as reference in your research. So having those important previous study that useful for your study, then you can make this as a citation. But don't start with numbers. Okay, assume that you have single paper and then your co-author have, say, 10 or 15 publication, and just for the sake of citation, so you put those studies, and it doesn't being honest with yourself. Again, I show some honesty in previous slide. So if you just put just for the sake of citation, then you're not being honest, because those studies, they may not be important. They may not be useful for your study, but it's just for the sake of citation of your, let's say, for your team or for anyone. So that's the issue that I would like to highlight. Second thing is something unique. Yeah, it's something that you learn. If you're a starter or probably the beginner, you may find that something unique is it cannot be achieved directly. You need to learn throughout the process. How you learn it? There are many ways. You read many references. You have discussion with another researcher. You follow seminar and trying to follow the presentation. And now we have nowadays the last 2 years we have pandemic and everything. Probably this is also answering the third question on stay positive during pandemic. So nowadays we have pandemic and everything throughout the Zoom. And for myself, it's sometimes not easy to follow seminar throughout using Zoom, for example, because we have to catch and not be seated in a similar situation with the presenter. And yes, to understand something of your work, you need a process. There is need process. You cannot get that just from single reading or just for one-time activity. You need to get the whole concept of your study and then trying to challenge. The key issue is challenging. The key issue is for you to have to understand the concept and challenge everyone, including if you have to challenge your supervisor. But be aware that you have to wisely challenge your supervisor, because obviously if you challenge your supervisor and then you're being more pushed, and then there might be problem with your study. But challenging a study is a basic of before you start research. So if you right now I'm going to use the now pandemic. We have COVID-19 and why one of the study is obviously in finding the vaccine, for example. Why there are many types of vaccine? The idea, of course, is that different researchers, they have their own mind, their own interpretation on how to make a vaccine, and different group, for example, they have different ways on making vaccine. That is just one example I took looking at the current situation. And question number three on stay productive. Myself, I've been the current pandemic makes the last 2 years, almost 2 years, 2 years makes the lecture given through the student makes using online mode. So obviously I have more time in doing research, and it's just keep if when we have time, we may read many things and trying to find again question number two on something finding unique, and then we trying to write. And I think it's the pandemic also beneficial in trying to publish or sending our manuscript into journal because of the situation. But the problem is that for myself, for example, we cannot go to the field to collect the data, and if you read my previous explanation on Collaborator, there is important thing in my field, because I have Collaborator in, let's say, in Palu and another university in Palu, and they may go to the field and collect the data, and I'm doing processing. So it's another way of having Collaborator during this pandemic. So I think that's my answer.
Okay, Dr. Endra, I will probably clarify about the question from Bapak Alam from DPKH Jawa Tengah. Perhaps his question is about, for a single research that we conduct, how many output papers that we can produce from that single research?
It depends on their understanding, Pak. So if you have a pool, if you have an aquarium, then how many fish you can put in those aquarium? It depends on if you have one big fish, arowana, let's say, you just put only one, but it's big arowana, and in this case it may be one, but in nature, for example. But if you want to put a small fish in those aquarium, then you may have 5 or more fish in those aquarium. So it depends on how you're going to deliver your research, how you're going to express or show the readers, reviewer on the thing that you want to share to them. In my case, for example, we have analyzed earthquake in 2006, Java tsunami, and only from those event, we managed to publish, I think it's 4 some paper, I forget. So yeah, there are many ways of how you're going to make your research being published in how many journal. I think that is my answer on the question.
Okay, perhaps I will read the last question before we wrap up. From Agusto, Melawan University, how to put your idea into a word in a scientific way? So perhaps
that's the next question. So putting into word is not easy, especially as I mentioned, we are not an English speaker, we are not an English writer. So one way to do that, if you are really a beginner, is just type anything. The way I did it for the last 7 years is that I write one paragraph. You can find that in my book if you want to get more detail. But I write one paragraph, at least one paragraph every day. When I want to start write, not during my processing, because processing is different with writing. When I want to start writing, I start with at least one paragraph a day. So it may start with English, but if you are really beginner, you may start with Indonesian, and then you can translate, and then you can polish. But you have to maintain the sequence on regularly on how to write one paragraph a day at least. Because for myself, sometimes it's just sit down for 30 minutes, 1 hour, and then nothing's come up in writing. And then when I have the idea, when I want to start in typing or writing, suddenly some distraction, either from A, B, or C, some outside distraction, and then it makes you stop the writing, or it makes you stop the thing that you want to write. So the easiest way for me is to start before you start the day. Before you start the day, just type in everything in one paragraph, and most of the case, when we already, even though we start slowly after 30 minutes or 1 hour, and then we just type one paragraph. Suddenly, when we feel tired, it's sometimes I experience it happened to me 2 or 3 paragraph is already already typed, or I already typed 2 or 3 paragraph, not just one paragraph. So those ideas sometimes different people by people, but if you want to start to write, when you are a very beginner, you can start in Indonesia. Don't make the language barrier block you in trying to write. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Endra. And look like we run out of time, and we have covered most of our question. Dr. Endra, is there anything else you want to cover before we wrap up?
Right. So probably this is just an advice for everyone in here. When you're doing research, you have to look into yourself why you're doing this research, and having those come back to you, those motivation come back to you, then you may find it's easier to write. So I think you need to see, or you ask yourself why you need to do this research, and then when you find the answer, and then it should be, or most of my case, it will be easier to write. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Endra Gunawan, and thank you to all participants for attending today's first general lecture session of the 5th ICTROP 2021. Please note that after the break, there will be a second general lecture session by Professor Ida Bagus Andika, moderated by Kadis Mujiono, PhD. It will be a great pleasure to have you return to this room on time. And also the link for the 5th ICTROPS main conference tomorrow will be provided in the chat pane. We are looking forward to see you tomorrow. And now let's return the time to the Master of Ceremony. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for the very good lecture. The Honorable all the audiences, we are now having a break for 5 minutes. And for all the participants, please stay tuned until the end of this general lecture, because we will choose 4 best participants who will get a special prize from us. which will be held tomorrow on 6 October 2021. You can click the link on the chat for more information about the registration. Ladies and gentlemen, the next agenda is a session about scientific writing, how to publish in a reputable journal, which will be delivered by Professor Ida Bagus Andika from Qingdao Agricultural University, China. And this session will be moderated by Kadis Mujiono, PhD. For the speaker and moderator, time is yours.
Hello, can you hear my voice?
I cannot hear your voice.
You cannot hear?
Cannot.
Kenapa di sini mute? Kenapa mute? Yeah, me. Can you hear? Okay, please wait. Hello, can you hear my voice?
Okay, clear, Pak Kadis, clear.
Clear? Okay, thank you. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. Maybe in some place already afternoon, but in middle Indonesia, now is still morning. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second session of this general lecture. This time, we have another great speaker that will be share his experience into how to writing paper in good journal. He has an excellent education and research background. He is graduated from the Faculty of Agriculture, Udayana University, and later on, he is graduated from Graduate School of Science and Technology, Okayama University, Japan, for his master degree and his PhD. He is an outstanding career in his field of research. His field of research is virology, plant pathology, microbiology, and genetic. In year of 2009, he is a postdoctoral researcher in plant microbe interaction group in the IPSR, Okayama University. And then 2009 to 2013, he moved to the Institute of Virology and Biotechnology, Zhenjiang Academy of Agricultural Science, China, as associate professor. And then in 2015 to 2019, he come back to Japan to the plant microbe interaction group in the Institute of Plant Science and Resources, Okayama University, Japan, as the assistant professor. And then from 2019 up to now, he is a professor and also head of the Laboratory of Agriculture and Environmental Virology in the College of Plant Health and Medicine, Qingdao Agricultural University, China. During his research career, he was published a lot of highly qualified journal. His scopus, its index is, I think, 16 or maybe 18. So if you are interested in his publication, so please visit to his Scopus account. So you can find a lot of highly qualified journal that published by Professor Ida Bagus Andika. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Ida Bagus Andika. Professor Andika, can you say hello maybe? Where are you now? Hello?
Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you. Okay, thank you, Professor Andika. How are you today? Are you fine?
Okay, good, thank you.
Are you now in China or in Bali?
Now I'm in Bali.
Okay, good. So we have same time.
Yeah.
Okay. My respective participant, the rule is same as the first session. So if you have a question for this session, so please type your question in the chat box, and then you should follow the rule. So please type your name, your institution, and then the question, and then we will write the question after the presentation. So Professor Ida Bagus Andika is actually, he is my friend when I took my PhD in Japan from 2017. So usually I just call him Pak Andika. So this time I also want to call him just Pak Andika, because this is for me it's more friendly than I call him Professor. But he is I think he is a great professor. Okay, Pak Andika, our time today is 1 hour. So you have 45 minutes for your presentation, but if you can finish it maybe less than 45 minutes, so we will have more time for discussion. Maybe we can firstly check your voice, and you can try to share your slide. You will see.
Yes. Actually, now I'm trying to upload my file, so I have problem how to do it now.
You can under the figure, you can see the screen, share screen, the green.
Yeah, I tried to click, but there is problem. Cannot.
Okay, maybe
happen like we did yesterday. So this is okay.
This one. Okay. Now you can. Okay. I think this is look okay. Your voice also okay. So we can start from now.
Sorry, this is you are doing for me.
Oh, this is from us. Okay. I think is it okay? We share your presentation, or by yourself?
I want to do by myself, but I have problem to upload my.
Okay, firstly, maybe we try first with your computer. We try first.
Yeah. So I don't know what.
Okay, please wait.
So look like I have problem to upload my file here.
Okay. So you already opened the PowerPoint?
Yes, I already opened.
And then you try to share screen? And then what the computer said?
I just have message from Zoom. This is in Chinese, so.
Okay. Okay. Maybe
sorry,
we can help
sorry.
you to. We can help you to share your screen. Is it okay?
Yes, but will be too many next. Okay.
Oh. Okay. Let's try first.
Okay, just try from there. Can you?
Okay.
Can you open?
Okay, we will try from here. Okay, this one?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's start.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ida Bagus Andika. And thank you, Dr. Kadis Mudiono, for the introduction. I also would like to thank the organizer of the 5th International Conference for Tropical Studies and its application for the invitation as a speaker at this wonderful meeting. My talk today is about how to publish in a reputable journal. Next, please. First, I would like to introduce my research background. My research area is life science, covering virology, plant biology, microbiology, molecular biology, ecology, and genetics. Next. Research material used in my study including virus, fungus, plants, and insects. Next. I have authored and co-authored a number of peer-reviewed papers since 2005. And I also often invited as a reviewer for several scientific journals. Next, please. So my talk today is, please keep back, please. Back. So my talk today is mostly based on my personal experience working in life science fields. Other research area may have a different approach and emphasis different things, but I hope that my talk today can provide general guidelines and useful tips to help researchers in publishing their work. So what is the purpose of scientific publication? Publication is an effective way to present our scientific finding through general public. Next. Through publication, we expect that scientists can obtain new information and understanding. Next. Scientific community can evaluate the findings. Next. Provide specific methods, interaction, and research material so that other scientists can conduct similar or related research. Next. And also, a publication can facilitate the assessment of research or student. Next. There are three major steps in having scientific publication. Next. First is conducting the research or collecting data. Next. Second, preparing the research manuscript. And the third, next, submission of the manuscript to a scientific journal. Next, please. So, a common issue for researchers is to question what kind of research to do for having an outstanding paper. Now, I would like to introduce some important points to consider in planning and conducting research. Next. Most importantly, the research must provide novel scientific information. So, research aims to answer unresolved question or problem. And next, the same topic has not been studied previously. Next. Another important point is that the results are conclusive. It is also important that the findings have significant impacts or attract a great interest from scientific community or general public. For example, by identifying new important objects or phenomena, present a new understanding on human and nature, reveal the mechanism underlying a particular process or pathway, develop new useful methods or technologies, and also may be related to a current trending or hot topic in science. Next. Another important point is that the results are conclusive, consistent, and reproducible. This can be achieved by correct experimental design, sufficient number of samples, proper statistical analysis, and perform replicate experiments. And the results are verified with different kind of analysis. And also very important to note that the results are free from fabrication, deliberate manipulation, and improper modification of the data. Next, please. It is also important that the result has no important ethical issue. For example, absence of potential harm to human and environment. The proper care, use, and humane treatment of laboratory animals. Permission to use certain research material and intellectual properties. Voluntary participation or informed consent rule. And maintain confidentiality and anonymity. And also the research has no conflict of interest, meaning that financial, political, or other personal matters do not influence researcher view and judgment in conducting research. Next, please. And finally, to have a successful research progress, the research should have sufficient funding and technical support. This can be facilitated by obtaining research grants or other support, presence of technicians, student, or postdoctoral researchers to carry out the experiments, having research collaborators to share ideas, experimental techniques, and research material. And also very useful to have review of the project by experts. Next, I would like to talk about how to prepare the manuscript. Ideally, manuscript is prepared after sufficient data have been collected so that conclusion can be drawn from the study. Usually we begin with organizing and arranging our data and records. Also, we prepare tables, graphs, figures, photos, videos, and also other data. And we need add detailed legend, captions, or other description to our data. Use proper software. For example, use Microsoft Office to generate tables and graphs. Desktop publishing software such as Adobe or Corel to generate figures. Next, please. So the figures or photos should be high quality, usually in TIFF files with the resolution around 300 dpi. Presentation of the data should be clear, informative, and prepared in artistic sense. This is the time we use our right brain. So it is interesting that preparing a scientific paper actually requires both logical and artistic works. Next, please. The body of research papers generally consists of titles, abstract, introductions, materials and methods, research, and discussions. Next, please. Title is a short sentence that represents the main topic, finding, or conclusion of your study. Among topic, finding, and conclusion, in my opinion, using conclusion from your study as a title is the best. But in this case, you should have complete and strong evidence to support your conclusion. Abstract is a brief summary of your study. Usually contain 250 to 300 words. In abstract, we describe objective of the study or the importance of this research. We describe also the research, but not in details. Main conclusion from your study. And lastly, impact or contribution of your research. Introduction describes the background and objective of your study to help the reader understand your study. Introduction describes information related to the topic of your study, current knowledge or understanding related to the study, why this topic is important, what is the problem or question, objective of the study or the goal of your research. And also we describe what to expect or describe our hypothesis. Introduction section, as well as other sections, requires intensive and accurate referencing. By adding reference information, we acknowledge the publication or information cited in the paper. And also, we demonstrate our understanding regarding to the topic of the research. In material and methods, we describe all research materials used in the study. How, where, and when you get the samples or materials. How you perform the experiments or analysis. We also need to describe chemicals, tools, apparatus, and machine used in the study. So it is very important that methods must be described in details and complete so that others can replicate your experiments. Result section is the core section of manuscripts where we present and describe the data. In the result, the data must be well organized and presented in systematic and logical manner so that the reader can easily understand and get your point. It is also necessary to make a good connection between result so that you have a good flow of data presentation. The result section usually consists of multiple groups of results that contain different data. Next, please. Here, I want to share how to write the result. For example, in one result group, we need to first briefly introduce why you perform this specific experiment or observation and how to perform. Second, clearly describe the data from your tables, figures, and photos or other data. And also you need to emphasize some important point from your data. Third, interpret the data. That means you describe the meaning of your data. Fourth, briefly discuss or reasoning why you get such result. And the last, shortly conclude or summarize your data. Here I explain several points to mention in discussion section. In discussion section, we discuss and interpret our results in relation to the result of other studies and current understanding. We draw final conclusion from our data, suggest a new model, mechanism or methodology, but we should avoid strong speculation. And also we need to describe the impact and contribution of our data to the academic field or society. Comment on the strengths and weakness of our study. Next, please. And lastly, we present the remaining question for future studies. Now I want to share with you several tips for English writing in research article. For better clarity to the reader, sentence must be simple and straightforward. Also, avoid long and complicated sentences. Usually, we can divide a long sentence into multiple sentences. As a general rule, we usually use past simple tense to describe the experiment or observation from your and other studies, while we use present simple tense to describe common knowledge or conclusions. Generally, passive voice is preferred than active voice to avoid excessive use of I and we throughout the manuscript. But nowadays, combination of both forms are more common. Proper use of conjunctions such as and, or, but, for, nor, although, so, even though, as. Next, please. Are the commonly used conjunction in the research articles. For example, both, and, either, or, neither, nor, that, which, whose, who, while, whereas, in which, by which, to which, for which. Please study well about the proper use of this conjunction, and this will greatly help you in writing. Also, do not miss the article with non-praise such as and the in the sentence. Other important things in writing scientific article are carefully select the word usage, as every word has its own distinct meaning and nuance. Next, please. Correct use of scientific terminologies in the manuscript. Correctly write the scientific naming of organism. My last tips is read your manuscript many times, think carefully, and make corrections. During manuscript preparation, we can get help from other sources. For example, online English dictionary. I usually use this free online English dictionary. Google Scholar is very useful to check common wording, terminologies, and reference. Correction from a native English speaker is very helpful, particularly if you have a senior scientist friend or collaborator to help you. Next, please. If you don't have correction by a native English speaker, I highly recommend you to send the manuscript to an English editing service. I would like to remind you to avoid plagiarism in writing. Next, please. Please compose your own sentence as much as you can. Nowadays, copying 4 to 5 words in a row may be considered plagiarism. My best advice for you to improve your writing skill is to read many papers and learn from them. Next, please. Please keep in mind that writing a research paper is a scholarly, demanding work. It requires a lot of time and persistent effort. Next, I would like to talk about the process of submission of the manuscript to scientific journal. First, we usually wonder which journal to choose to publish our paper. You must consider the impact and quality of your work. Prestigious general science journals such as Nature, Science, and PNAS are highly competitive and require remarkable novel and extensive works. But many reputable journals in their specific fields could be considered to publish your work. So please find the journal that is suitable according to your research area and quality of work. For the preparation of submission, first, we need to check author guidelines on the journal website. Adjust the format of your manuscript according to the requirement of the journal. Submit the final manuscript together with all associated data and files. Most of the journals charge publication fee. Please check the publication fee and be prepared for the payment. As you may already know that most research papers are peer-reviewed. Next, please. Peer review means 2 or 3 experts in the fields or peers evaluate the quality of your research and manuscript and then judge whether the paper is suitable for publication in the journal. Prestigious journals usually have editorial boards who preliminarily judge whether the paper is suitable for the journal and peer review process. Journal with a higher impact factor usually has stricter evaluation and more demanding comments from the reviewers. Peer review process usually takes 3 to 4 weeks. Next, please. After review process finished, we will get decision letter from the journal or editor that is in charge to handle your paper. The decision could be accepted. That means no revision required, but this is very rare case. Accepted with minor revision means that requires revision of the manuscript, but with little or no additional data required. Accepted with major revision means that the paper requires more substantial data and analysis. Rejected but encouraged for resubmission. In this case, reviewers may think you have interesting topic or finding, but need more complete analysis to support your finding and conclusions. Rejected. This means that they consider that your paper does not reach sufficient research quality or not suitable topic for the journal. In this situation, you can submit to a more suitable journal or do more studies. These are several important points to do for manuscript revision or resubmission. Address every question, comment, and suggestion from the reviewers in a response letter. Clarify any question or reviewers' misunderstanding on the content or descriptions in the paper. Add additional data suggested by the reviewers. Explain if you consider that addition of such data is not necessary. Revise or modify your manuscript according to suggestion from the reviewers. And also, it is important to indicate or label where you have modified the text in the revised manuscript. I have finished my talk. Thank you for your attention. And lastly, I would like to wish you a good luck in scientific journey.
All right. Thank you so much, Pak Andika, for very nice lecture. I think we get many important tips how to publish a journal into the high impact or high qualified journal. We have more time for discussion, I think. your presentation is almost faster than 45 minutes. So I think we have about 30 minutes maybe for the discussion. So please, the audience, so please write your question to the chat box or maybe from the YouTube. So I will read your question for Panika. So we already have 3 questions. First, the first one is from Adrian Widian from ITB University. So the question is, what are usually seen reviewed first by reviewer of the international scientific journal, and what are the tips and tricks to deal with it?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
So what are usually seen? So what are usually seen firstly by the reviewer of the international scientific journal? So maybe you can give us the tip and trick to deal with it. Maybe you can answer first question.
So actually, I don't know what other review doing when they got the invitation for the review. But this is just based on my own personal experience in reviewing many papers. So very important, usually I will look at the title first and abstract. So this is very important point that you have a good title and abstract. This will give impression, the first impression, what the content and what the quality of your data or paper. And next, after I look at the abstract, I read that abstract carefully, and then usually I just go through and find the data directly. I look at the figures, the tables, and then later I will slowly follow the paper from beginning again. So this is usually what I'm doing. So I'm not sure for other reviewers, but I think this is very important that you have a good title and good abstract first to give first good impression for your papers.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Panika. I think we need some tips from you that this is related to the question from the first session, that how to make the eye-catching title, because you said that firstly you usually see the title first and then go to abstract and then go to the data. So I think the title is very important to make interesting title. Maybe you can give us some suggestion.
Okay. So like I saw in my slides about, I have talked in my slide about the title, how to compose or how to prepare a title. Title can be your finding. First, the title can be, you write just the topic of your research, but this is not very good, in my opinion, because this cannot give you any clue what's the content of your data or your research. And the next is you can write your finding. What you find, what things new here. This is better than you just write your topic of your research. This is much better, but this is not enough, because this also cannot give you any clue what next, what things that is deeper than this finding, scientific finding. And the best one is you can, if you possible, if you can write your conclusion, your main conclusion from your data. But in this case, you need very strong evidence. You need very comprehensive and complete analysis of your data. Yes, actually, we don't need to consider very much about the things about the eye catching, like you said, because the first is because science is about something that objective. This is not subjective things, and if we have something really new, unique, and important, and this is already become eye-catching. So we don't need to think about eye-catching sentence. We just focus on something that unique or important in our finding, and how we have analyzed these things. For example, we can elucidate, we can explain fully what the mechanism behind this new finding. For example, like that. So if you can write your very specific mechanism, new mechanism, this one already become eye-catching. I think this is my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Pandika. We have another question. I think we have many questions here. But before I read the question for you, I want to say greeting to your student. I saw here in the participant some Chinese name. I think this is your student.
Yes.
So thank you for joining this general lecture for some visitor from China. Okay, let's go to the next question. This is from Doni from Mulauman University. So which consideration which consideration should do maybe this is the quartile or the age index of the journalistic presidency? I think the question is like this. If you want to publish the journal, so which one should be become a consideration? The high impact journal or maybe the quartile like Q1, Q2 and so on? This is the question. You can.
Yeah, this is it, because have many standard like impact factor and then have Q1, Q2, Q3. So my personal opinion, I don't really care about this impact factor. So what I care about is how about the field? How about the reputation in the field I'm working? So as much as I can, I want to publish in a journal that is have a good impression, have a good reputation in my field. This journal can be less impact factor than the other journal that have better impact factor. For example, for example, my field is plant pathology, so I want to submit a paper into the plant pathology field. The paper that is well recognized by the community of the plant pathology. So usually this is my concern. So my general concern, sure. If you have some finding that is really very outstanding, very important, sure, I recommend you to publish to a more general journal like Science, Nature, or PNNS. So yes, this is just depend on what your finding and the quality of your works. But if you get some normal data, just common data, I suggest you better we submit to the journal that have a good reputation and well recognized by your scientific community. So this is my opinion.
Okay, yeah, I think that's right. That sometimes our field is different with other, and then the quality of journal also different. But we should consider the journal quality in our field. Thank you for the question, for the answer. And the another question is from Wahyu Anggara. This is from STIMIC. I think this is STIMIC Samarinda. Is Kalimantan. What are our chance? What are our chance of suggesting another reviewer if we think the reviewer doesn't understand much about our manuscript? Can you catch
could you repeat again?
What are our chance of suggesting another reviewer if we think the reviewer doesn't understand much about our manuscript?
That means we already got the decision letter from the journal after submission, right?
I think so. Maybe if our journal rejected because of the reviewer is not really much with our field, and then we can change, maybe like something like that.
Yes, actually, it's depend on what kind of decision we got. So when we got total rejection, that means rejection. This actually rejection is not decided by the reviewers. Actually, decided by the editor. So editor consider the reviewers' comment and thinks maybe our paper is not suitable or not sufficient enough for their journal. So actually, this is there are many cases that actually the reviewers cannot fully understand or misunderstand our content or our data. This can be due to this can be due to because they are not really the expert of the topic of the paper. So actually, if we get like a revision or resubmission, or in that case, actually we can reply to the journal, reply to the editor, and explain which part that the reviewer have misunderstanding or unclarity in our papers. So in case of we got the rejection, so in my experience, I don't do any further. I just change my journal, send to another journal. So if you got this kind of reviewer that is not really understand your topic, maybe you can send a letter and explain, or you can just give up and submit to another journal.
Okay, so the point is, if we get the rejection or maybe major revision from the reviewer that not really understand with us, with our research, so we can explain this to the editor and we can resubmit to the another journal. I think this is the key, the point of the answer. Okay, we go to the next question. It's from Ibu Nur Rahmah. This is from Mullah Warman University. The question is, how about some self-assurance advice for first-time submission? And how do you handle journal editor rejection? That's the question. You can.
Sorry, please, could you repeat again?
How about some self-assurance advice for first-time submission? And how do you handle a journal editor rejection? I think the second question is already answered.
Yeah. So for the beginner, for the first time submission, this is the question?
Yes, for the first time submission.
Okay. Actually, there is no requirement for the submission or experienced people. This is no different if you are beginner or you are experienced. Because this is just the same. You need to complete the requirement of the papers. You can read, you can carefully read the author guidelines on the website. So maybe this is the most important suggestion for the beginner. You need read carefully the author guidelines on their website, journal website. So usually they have very complete description, explanation, what requirement, what format of papers, what the publication fee, and everything. I think this is the most important thing to do.
Okay, thank you for the answer. And the next question is from Dijan, Mula Warman University. The question is, sometimes we try to paraphrasing sometimes we try to paraphrasing, but come out with using a synonym that refer to uncommon term. So it is presentable or not. So sometimes we may paraphrase the word from another journal, but then we use the uncommon term, something like that. So how do you think?
Yes, actually, even this thing is very interesting. Even this thing still happen, even to me now, right? This is kind of a trap, right? So the problem is we usually read the papers, information. So this is strongly affect us. Actually, if we need to understand their result, not to read their result. So if you really understand their result, and then you can compose your own sentence. You don't need to follow their sentence. So this is the difference between read the result and understand their result. And sure, you must pay attention to the word you said or terminology. So this one, you need to use proper word or terminologies. So I think this is my tips here. Please do not only read the papers, you also need understand the paper, and then later sentence or your understanding will help you to compose a good sentence.
All right. Yes, I think that's very true, because some term is very specific in some field that's uncommon to use the another field. Okay, another question is from Francisca Nina Pascalia from Mula Warman University. The question is, can you give me some tips for beginner in writing paper, and what standards must be made to write the paper? That is the question. So the tips for the beginner, and what the standard if you want to publish in high quality journal or something like that.
Okay. Like what I talked previously in my presentation. First, the core of the paper is your result. First, you need to have a good result. A good result doesn't mean that something you can publish in very high-level journal. I mean, a good result, that means well-organized result, systematic result, And sure, the research must have something new finding. And this is the most important, that you have a new finding. New mean maybe less new or very new. So this is very relative things, but you must have something new. So this is the problem actually when we write a paper. If we don't have something new in our finding, in our research, this can be very difficult to write a paper. Yes, if you have very new research, interesting finding, and this usually can be very easy to write. And next, sure, we have some language barrier. So this one, like I thought in the paper, in my presentation, this thing is very difficult to accomplish writing skill. But the most of my important suggestion is you need to read many papers, and only by this way you can learn the format, the writing style, how to present one data in how to describe a data in a sentence. Usually we can learn. This is the best way to improve our writing skill by reading many papers, as many as you can. The paper that are related to your field, to your research subject, or even the paper that is not related to your subject is also important to read. And after reading many papers, and then you will get an impression how to correctly write, how to correctly compose a good sentence. So I think this is the best way for beginner. And about the standard, sure, you should have a good grammatically English language in your paper. Like I told you before, if you cannot accomplish a good manuscript, you need ask help from other people, from a senior scientist, or if you can send to English editing services. I think this is my suggestion.
Okay, I will read the next question. This is from Nurul from Mullah University. Would you like to share your tips how to answer the reviewer comment in our manuscript? So how to answer correctly, because sometimes we confuse how to answer the reviewer comment.
Okay. This is also important question. How to answer? This is just depend on what is the question. So you need to answer according to what is questioned by the reviewer. Or usually this is question can be, we can say generally a comment. When we got the letter from the journal, usually we'll have the comment from the reviewers. So the comment can be a question, can be suggestion, or if there is a question you need answer, what need to be clarified. Maybe the reviewer does not understand or misunderstand what your point. So you need to clarify this one as possible as you can. And also, if the if this is the suggestion, you, as much as you can, is better you have follow up for this suggestion. For example, doing more analysis or adding more data. And also this can be request, that means very strong requirement from the reviewers. So if you want to pass your paper for this particular journal, if you have a request, that means particularly if editor support this request, that means you really need to add, you need to have a follow-up for this request, usually in the form of additional data or experiment. So this is my answer.
Okay, thank you. We have 5 minutes remaining time, but still many questions here. So I want to select some important question here from Dr. Supriya from Faculty of Agriculture, Mulawarman University. This is about the plagiarism. How to avoid plagiarism, because sometimes we got entrapped to our own article that has been published. So, you know, when we check with some software to check our plagiarism, sometimes the software say the plagiarism is like 50%, but this because our research is very close with our first published paper. So how to avoid this? Some maybe we say self plagiarism. I think this is the question.
Yes, this is also interesting question. Actually, if you have problem with plagiarism from your own previous paper, this is a very easy problem, because you really understand your own data, your previous data. So this is not a big problem. You can just think from different view. You can think your data from different view, and then you will have you can compose your new sentence, not really the same sentence with your previous. So this is just yes. Actually, this is just a motivation problem. Actually, this is also my problem.
All right.
Yeah, this is everybody problem. So this is just about motivation. Usually because we become too lazy to compose a new sentence. But we know very well our previous data. So very easy to make a new sentence.
Okay. So we have to rewrite the paper. So that's why we feel lazy to rewrite the paper.
Okay.
Okay. So I think time is almost done, but still many questions. But I have important questions for you. This is my own experience when I published my paper. So I'm sorry for the audience. I used this last time for my own question. So the question is when the reviewer they request new data from our research, but we have limited of time and also limited of funding to do that. So how to excuse this request from the reviewer? How is the best way to say that we cannot provide this data? You can understand.
Yeah. So this is actually not the things we can decide by ourselves. For example, we have one particular experiment requested by the reviewers, and most of the time the requests are good, and I think most of the time I got a good comment or good request from the reviewers, particularly if you submit to a good journal, you will have a high level of reviewers, and usually they give very good comment or request. So far, so as much as I can do, I usually follow what the request. If the request is very crucial, I will follow. And yes, I like what you said. If the request is too hard to be done in your situation, maybe it's better you have you find a different journal. You have alternative journal, maybe lower journal that maybe will not ask the reviewer, will not ask the same request. Usually very difficult to make excuse why we don't do this experiment, because we don't have money, or we don't have time, or nobody can do. Also, this kind of excuse we cannot write in the reply letter. This is a very personal things or very subjective reason. We are not supposed to write such kind of excuse in the response letter.
All right. Okay. Thank you for great discussion, Pak Andika. I think now time is over. I will give you maybe 1 or 2 minutes to give maybe last speech for us, and then after that we will stop this session. And I want to remind to the audience to join tomorrow. Tomorrow is main event of the ICTROPS, so we will have a conference for tomorrow. So please find the information in the chat box, and you can register for tomorrow event. So Pak Andika, I will give you maybe 1 minute, please.
Okay, in the audience, maybe there are many students or young scientists here. So the things I would like to say that you will have a very long journey from here if you want to continue pursue your career in scientific field. So I just want to have my final message to you, to have a good, to have a strong passion, scientific passion. So this is the most important. You have a passion for science, and other will follow up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Andika. Thank you for the audience for your attention. I will stop this session with selamat siang. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So the MC, please take your time.
Okay, thank you for the wonderful lecturer. For all the participants, I would like also to mention to fill the attendance list for today's event for the certificate on the chat box. And for all the participants who wants to get the materials from our speaker today, you can download it on the link at the chat box also. Well, finally, we come to our last agenda that you all be waiting for. It's the best participant of this event. So we can see that we have a list of the 4 best participants. The first best participant goes to Budi Santoso from Mulawarman University. The second best participant goes to Ida Ayumanik from STIMI Handayani. The third belongs to Adrian Widians from ITB, and the last is Doni from Mulawarman University. Congratulations for all the winners. Don't forget to inform to our team for the prize at the end of this event. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to also remind you about tomorrow 5th International Conference of Tropical Studies and its application, you can still register to join as a participant in the registration box on the chat box. Well, ladies and gentlemen, may we gain lots of knowledge from today's lecture. Thank you for your attendance, and hopefully when the world gets better, we can have an offline general lecture. We would like to apologize for any kind of mistake. Once again, thank you, good afternoon, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Bapak Ibu.
Terima kasih
Pak Kadis.
Terima kasih Pak Andika.
Terima kasih Prof. Andika.
Hello. Yeah. What? You like my lecture? Also, they will share my point to all participants. I can say. How you report? Also, the organic you can. Now you already mastered your writing paper. I already read all my knowledge.
Halo Mas Alam. Mas Alam.
Oh, what is that?
Mas Alam. Bu Nurul.